Welcome. This is the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, and we are so glad that you've made it to a calmer corner of your day. Here, we focus on real solutions, practical help, and the kind of encouragement we could all use a little more of. So let's get to it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Senior Safety Advice Podcast. This month, you know that we've been talking, this month of February, we've been talking about Heart Health and Emotional Resilience Month. And today, I wanted to talk about the value of forgiveness for emotional healing. And I want to start by saying this. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood ideas out there. A lot of people think that forgiveness means excusing the behavior or pretending that something didn't hurt or letting someone off the hook, which it's not that at all. Forgiveness is not really about the other person. It's about what you're carrying. And in my lifetime, I've seen this, and I myself have experienced this forgiveness so many times. But it took a lot of time and a lot of self-work to get to that point. People carrying old hurts can feel like a heavy bag constantly, year after year, decade after decade. You know, my mom used to say that she lived under a black cloud. That was her quote, black cloud. But the reality was that she would create that cloud for herself. And she did. She literally did live under that black cloud because she could not get out from those heavy bags that she kept carrying. And it comes on so subtle, and it builds up so subtly and in pieces that you don't even realize how heavy it truly becomes. Until, of course, your body starts showing it, with tension, with anxiety, with depression, with fatigue, poor sleep, high blood pressure. Unresolved emotional pain doesn't stay emotional. It lives in the body. My late husband was a psychologist, and then he became a physician assistant. And he used to come home many days, from his work at family practice and point to his body and say, the majority of people aren't coming in to see me for this, be pointing at his body. And then he would point to his head. He said, they're coming in to see me for this, meaning that it's not really the physical pains that they're experiencing. It's really from the emotional pain that they're carrying. And that's where I've learned that forgiveness can really come in and relieve some of that. Forgiveness is a way of setting something down, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more than that. I mean, I've worked with older adults who said, I should be over this by now. And I am still, after so many years, grieving my husband's passing. And I know some of my friends are probably thinking, she should be over this by now. But it doesn't always stop right there. And if you've been through grief, you know that you don't actually quite ever get over it. You just learn to live with it. It's like learning to live with a splinter, is what I read somewhere. But there is no timeline for emotional pain. Some wounds take longer to soften, especially when they involve betrayal, loss, or deep disappointment. Forgiveness isn't a deadline, it's a process. And if you allow that process to evolve and work on it, then it will at some point become something that is livable with. I hope that makes sense. And sometimes, that process starts very quietly. Sometimes it starts with a thought like, I don't want this to hurt me anymore. Just declaring that is the beginning of the healing of yourself. That's it. Something simple like that. That alone is enough to begin. One thing that I've noticed is that unforgiven pain keeps the nervous system on alert. The body tends to stay braced, waiting, always protecting yourself. And that constant vigilance can really be exhausting. Forgiveness allows the body to stand down. Not fully at first, of course, but little by little. Your shoulders tend to relax. Your just general demeanor and body tend to relax. You become calmer and less agitated, let's say. I've seen, people begin this process and their shoulders relax. You can physically see it. When they can say to themselves, I'm done replaying this. And I often have to say that to myself as well. As I move through this grieving process, this forever grieving process, that release really does matter. Another thing that people tend to not realize is that forgiveness doesn't require contact. You don't have to talk to the person. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to reconcile, because forgiveness is internal. It's not external. Remember, it's not about the other person. It's about yourself. It's not forgiving them. Forgiveness is letting go, and that's internal. It's not about them. It's quiet. It's personal. Letting go can bring you lots of peace. Forgiveness is not forgetting, as I've said before. Your brain remembers, and it helps to protect you. Forgiveness is choosing not to relive the pain every time the memory shows up. It's saying, this happened, but it doesn't get to run my life, my mind, or my body anymore. That choice is powerful, and it's healing. Another thing I want to say out loud is that forgiveness can happen in layers. You might forgive intellectually at first. Your brain can begin the process of forgiving, but your heart may take a lot longer. So emotionally, it can happen later. Forgiveness can happen later. Or, it's going to go up and down. You can forgive on most days and then struggle on other days. Believe me, that is normal. Healing, forgiveness is not linear. Forgiving siblings who maybe didn't help with caregiving of an elderly parent. Forgiving doctors who missed something. Forgiving yourself for not doing this or for doing that. It's constantly, I should have said this, or I could have said that, or maybe I didn't say this, or I didn't say that, or I should have done this, and I should have done that, or maybe I shouldn't have, or couldn't have, or, your life is going to always be filled with should-haves and could-haves, and why didn't I, and why did I? Every single person replays those constantly in their mind when they come up against an issue that is unresolved. And that's where forgiveness comes in. It's not about the other person. It's about yourself. That kind of self-blame is extremely heavy to carry. Forgiveness toward yourself is not letting yourself off the hook. It's acknowledging that you did the best you could with what you knew, with what you had at that time. When you realize that, when you finally accept that and can forgive yourself for whatever, you may have an emotional breakdown. You may begin crying, and you may spend an hour or a day crying or two. That's okay. That's normal, because you are finally letting that go. You're releasing that. And forgiveness frees up a lot of energy. And sometimes that energy comes out in crying. That's okay. But you will sleep better and you will breathe easier and you're going to feel lighter. Not because life changed, not because the external life changed, but your inner life, that inner load shifted. So here's something very important. Forgiveness does not mean that you remove boundaries. Boundaries are so very, very important for all of us. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can forgive and still say no. That is healthy. Forgiveness is not access. It's release. And release is very good for your heart. Your blood pressure can improve when emotional tension is eased. And because the reason for that is because emotions in the heart are deeply connected. Stress tightens blood vessels and peace softens them. Forgiveness supports peace. That I think we can all agree on. Now, I want to be clear. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to declare it today and expect it to be done by tonight at dinner. Pushing yourself can cause more harm. Start where you are. Maybe today it's just acknowledging the hurt. Maybe tomorrow it's setting a boundary. And maybe later, the next day, the next week, it's letting go a little more. All of that counts because you're working towards it. It's the process, not, not perfection. Healing happens at your pace. And forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's practice, 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 practice. A choice you return to when old feelings resurface, when you become your old self before that event happened. And each time you choose it, the grip that an event like that has on you loosens a bit more. So if you're carrying around something heavy right now, something emotionally heavy, ask yourself this. Is holding on to this helping me, or is it hurting me? If it's hurting you, then forgiveness might be the gift that you give yourself. Not because what happened was okay. It wasn't, clearly. But because you deserve that peace. You deserve a happy, peaceful, healthy life. Well, that's all I have for you today. I know I shared a little bit of my own healing process, but I can tell you that learning to forgive myself for past events, and we all have regrets, but blaming the other person or the event that happened doesn't help. It is really all about how you react to what happens to you, and then moving forward with that sense of forgiveness, with the act of forgiveness. Well, if today's episode gave you some useful insights or some new ideas, then please share it with someone who you think might find it helpful as well. And you can discover even more expert tips and helpful guides for seniors and caregivers at seniorsafetyadvice.com. If you're searching for someone to help you with senior services, then please consider taking a look at our website, aginginplacedirectory.com. And of course, come back tomorrow for more useful tips, insights, and ideas right here on Senior Safety Advice Podcast. And hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel or the podcast yet, then please go ahead and do that right now. It truly helps us to reach more people who could use this kind of support and information. So until next time, take care of yourself and the ones that you love. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is part of our mission to help older adults live safely and independently. If you'd like to take the next step, visit aginginplacedirectory.com, where you'll find specialists, helpful resources, and inspiration to make every home your place to thrive.